Welcome to another episode of the Jesus Cartel, where we just experienced one of my cleanest and most pristine claps that I've done to enter an episode so far. I feel really good about that.
Yeah, my ear still hears it just a little bit.
Yeah, that was top tier.
Yeah.
That was top tier.
Not that it was like loud or anything
No.
like that. It was just crisp.
It was crisp.
And
Crisp
so,
is a good word.
So I think my ears just now getting over it.
Yeah, I think first bite from a nice apple. It was just...
I'm glad that's what you said. I was thinking the first bite from a non-chewy Chips Ahoy cookie. You can tell I hadn't been eating very well lately.
Jeez. Maybe a Kit Kat probably would have worked. You know,
Yeah.
Kit Kats have a nice little, like...
I don't know, man. I'm so
I'm not even going to
focused.
try to replicate the noise
So
that Kit
focused
Kat bite
on the
makes.
chocolate part of a Kit Kat that the rest of it, it's
don't
just
know,
like, it's got to be here.
I'm big on wafers, man.
Yeah.
I think they're just called wafers. I don't think there's anything fancy about their name. They're like
Right.
the little chocolate, strawberry, vanilla wafers that you can buy. I've always loved those. My kids love those.
See, I've never been that poor.
So that's exactly what I was about to say. So that's what we could afford. You know, I've heard about Chips Ahoy. People have told me stories. I hear they're good. Oh wait.
Welcome to the Jesus Cartel.
Yeah. Where if you eat wafers, you don't belong here. That's tough. No, that's good stuff. What's been going on with you?
Well, what day of the week is it?
It is Thursday.
It's Thursday. Yeah, so it's a good Thursday. So the first part of this week, so during October, Pastor Appreciation Month, Thrive Church got me a really nice basket. It had a lot of stuff in it. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And one of the things was a bed and breakfast for a couple of days in Natchez and stuff, and then some gift certificates to two really nice places to eat in Natchez. So
Which two places?
So it's Magnolia Grill,
Okay.
and Pearl Street Pasta, and they're owned by the same people.
Pearl Street pasta sounds delicious. I've never been. Is it good?
It's for people like me.
No wafers?
No
They don't sell wafers?
No wafers.
Oh, man.
There's
This is
you got to have a credit score and some
goodness.
money there, but it's a really nice, wonderful place, and they're owned by the same people, Magnolia Grill and Pearl Street Pasta. So if you can't afford Magnolia Grill, don't try to go to Pearl Street Pasta.
That's crazy.
But like Joe Campbell would say, you'll never pay more for noodles. But anyhow. But anyhow, it was great. We had a great time, and so Jeff and Jen are our travel buddies and stuff. We have a few, but Jeff and Jen are the ones that we travel with the most. So we left Sunday after church and went to Natchez, and we were really busy doing nothing. Mm-hmm. We had no agenda, but our time ran out from us. I thought I was going to be able to read a lot. I only read a few pages in a book. And so our time ran out in front of us, and so we were there part of Sunday, all day Monday, a little bit Tuesday, but we had a great time. Bed and breakfast is a unique experience because nobody else staying in any of the houses, because this bed and breakfast had a few different houses. None of the people staying in any of the houses had kids as young as we are. Mm-hmm. So that was a unique experience and everything. But we had
Being young again. Yep.
Yeah, we were very
good.
young,
That's
very
fun.
young. The whippersnappers of the group.
And just so you know, I have a credit score of almost 100, so it's almost perfect. So take that.
The same as the IQ right there. We're doing great. We got that 100 going on. So anyhow, we had a good time. I was wanting to play golf, but it was a little too windy, and I don't think it would have affected my golf game with a 18-mile-an-hour wind.
It wouldn't have at all.
The cold probably would have.
You have a low penetrating golf ball flight.
I think I'd been
you would have
okay.
Yeah.
But anyhow, we didn't get to go play. But hey, my wife and I, Jeff needed to get back a little earlier Tuesday. I wasn't ready to be over the date time because, hey, this is my pastor appreciation gift and my time with my wife. So we ended up going to Monroe and watching a movie called Solo Milo with Kevin James. And Kevin James directed the movie and was the main character in it. It was put out by Angel Studios.
I like Kevin James, but the look I'm giving you is because I've never heard of it.
Yep, it's new. It just come out about 2 weeks ago, but it was put out by a Christian, movie production company.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Angel. They do some really cool stuff.
But I didn't know that that's what it was.
Oh, yeah?
I just knew.
You went to go see something R-rated.
No, so the first 2 movies I looked at looked like they would be something I would watch, but they were rated R. So
Magic Mike 3.
And then the next 3 movies were all animated. Then the next one was a movie like where they try to scare you, and I've never been a proponent of paying somebody to scare me. And then this one looked like a romantic comedy, but it was rated PG, and I was like, well, I'm in, and I said, I'll see who's in the movie. I'll never know who it is, but I'll look. Well, it's Kevin James, one of the 3 actors I know. And so I was like, hey, you got my attention. So I looked at it. So we went and watched it, and it was great. It was probably a 7 out of 10, which
That's not bad.
very rarely happens,
bad, yeah.
And everything, especially with a romantic comedy, right? There was no cuss words in it. So, nothing bad.
Can you give me just the premise of the movie? Because
Yeah.
I've really never heard of it. What are we talking about
The
here?
only issue with giving you the premise is it'll take out the shock factor of the very first thing. But all it is he's in his 50s and he's fixing to get married. And they're very happy and been together for a while, it looks like, in the pictures and stuff. And then they go to Italy, I think, to get married. And he's standing up there ready, and she doesn't come. Then he goes, and she leaves him a note, and she just can't make it. And so anyhow, some
Visa issues.
The guy at the hotel talks him in to going on his honeymoon by himself because they're getting married there, but the honeymoon happens from there. And so he talks him into going on his honeymoon himself because he won't give him his money back or anything like that. And so it's tough because at first, they're
Is he doing the little boat ride down the water by himself?
Before that does happen. But before that, he's on the bicycle tour, and it's a bicycle for 2. It's terrible. Look, you got to feel sorry for him,
Well, that will do it. Yeah.
And then it's the boat ride for 1,
Yeah.
where you're rowing in circles because it's it was tough.
That's tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And the spaghetti for 2, and
Yeah.
and every table he goes to is set up
empty
for 2.
seat. Yeah.
Yeah, it was difficult. And the other thing was she was in the city the whole time. So she could have showed up at any time. So he kept her seat open for a while.
That's tough, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna watch that.
I think you
To
should.
do it. No.
Well, if you're not going to watch it, I'll spoil it for you then. So he meets these 2 couples, that's part of the same tour. Because he's on a honeymoon package, and it's called something funny like the 2 become 1 or something, and it's just him, And but he meets, and one of them has been married to the same girl for 3 times. This is their 3rd honeymoon.
Yeah.
And the other one is married to his therapist, who keeps him in line. Well, these are the 2 guys giving him
Advice. Yeah.
yeah,
Perfect.
and it reminds me of a lot of our listeners. Who are you getting advice from?
Yeah.
And so no, I was really sitting there thinking, man, and so anyhow, good movie. Hey, 2:00 matinee. Hadn't ate any popcorn in a while. Hey, good time. So we had a great time.
That's yeah. I'm not gonna go see that. That sounds.
I definitely wouldn't go if you were alone.
It sounds depressing.
Well,
This dude went on his honeymoon alone, and you're telling me I can't go to a matinee?
by yourself on this, yeah, I wouldn't do it.
That's tough.
What made it so good
What
for
if
me?
What if I go and I just cry the whole time?
You go by yourself,
obnoxiously.
like just right in the middle
right,
of
find
everything.
sit real close to a couple, get a huge thing of popcorn, have a second thing of popcorn in the chair next to me, and just sob the entire time.
Well, at the movie theater in Monroe now, I don't know when the last time you went. I don't go very often, but you choose your seat now.
Oh,
So instead
like
of
ahead of
choosing,
time?
So yeah,
Like an airplane?
Like when you go there and you pay your money, they turn a TV to you, and you choose what seat you want. So instead of choosing to be, all by yourself like normal people do, just find you a spot right in the middle of everybody.
So it shows seats that are occupied already, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Dude.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is...
Just choose you one right there in a group.
And then when they try to move away from me, make a scene.
Yeah, it's like, no, this
You
is
can't
my
do
seat.
that. You can't
Right.
move.
Right.
These are assigned.
Yes. These people will be coming in.
Call the
Yeah.
people. We have people moving seats in
Yes.
Theater 7.
This is my seat. Yeah.
That could be
that's
fun.
good. Yeah. So that
I
would
might
be
go
fun.
see it then.
Yeah, solo Mio. Yeah. So what's
Oh,
been
man.
going on with you, Andrew?
So we just had a revival in Columbia, which is different than what you did.
Yeah. Anybody come by themselves?
Yes. But no, it went really well, man. We had several people give their life to the Lord, and man, the local church there is just extremely fired up about moving forward. Really, great testimonies from a lot of the people in the church. Re-energized and feeling life again. A lot of these small churches, they haven't had pastors in a while and stuff, so they're just kind of. They're feeling that. They're feeling the weight of that, and so for us to be able to come in and just be a part of kind of helping shake them back up, remind them, that the Lord is with them, the Lord is for them, despite whatever it is they're dealing with. And then, trying to help kind of train up some of their leadership and encourage some of their leadership. Because not all of them need training. Some of them just need encouragement, And it's cool to get to see the results of that. And it's been yielding results everywhere that we've gone and we've planted. Because what we're doing is we're planning for like a month at a time. And so we're going to Hill Ridge for the next month. We'll be at Sardis the month after that. We'll be at Maryland the month after that. And so we're just kind of scheduled out. And man, it's just been wonderful just to be able to build relationships with the people and spend time with them and really get to know them.
So when you say y'all will be there for a month, your team will be there for a month. So you'll be there one of the weeks.
I will be there 2 of the week. And so when we go, most of these churches don't do night services anymore, but we typically do morning and night services while we're there. And so we're getting 8 services with them. Okay. I will typically do 4 of those, 4 of those 8. And I say 2 to 4 of those 8. It just depends on kind of how it falls. But, Trent Williams, Jeremy Reeves, and Russell Caldwell, and Wade Nethery he's been doing the music, but we've been kind of moving around together. And Russell and I usually kind of split the nights because we've had Sunday morning obligations as well, and Trent and Jeremy kind of split the mornings, and then a lot of them ask to do like a little community revival at the end on the last week. So like the last week we'll do like 3 or 4 days of revival services for them if that's something they ask for. We don't pitch that, but it's been good. It's been really good. It's been a lot of fun. And today is Arlen's day to hang out with Courtney, and they are going to the golf course. This is the first time Courtney has ever been to a golf course without me, and so they're really excited. I think Courtney's a little nervous too. She's never had to go into the pro shop and get a golf cart or anything like that, and so. But I'm super excited, man. I think they're gonna have a lot of fun, and so that's been going really well. Relationships with the kids are at an all-time high. Work stuff is going well. March is going to be a really big month for Operation Family Freedom. Just kind of starting some new methods of growth that are going to be super, super good. They're already setting up well, and so man, things on our end are top tier. Top tier. Now I do have a get to know you segment question today that I'm genuinely curious to see how you would answer. Go. We have talked about, and briefly this morning in class, I made mention of the question that gets asked a lot when you're trying to get to know somebody. And the question is, if you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would that meal be? We've actually discussed that on this podcast before some time ago. But I want to ask you instead this question. If you could only wear one wardrobe from here on out. And you only got $200 to assemble this wardrobe. What? And this is for all events, all occasions. You know, you got to wear it to work. You got to wear it to church. You got to wear it to the gym. Like whatever it is that you do. What are you going with?
Yeah, that's easy.
$200 ensemble. Go for it.
Yeah, straight Nike outfit.
Straight Nike.
Yep. So
are you going t-shirts? Are you going collars? What?
No. So you said total outfit. So a light windbreaker. A light. It's a really thin, light Nike zip all the way down with a Nike T-shirt underneath it, with the thin Nike pants, not the windbreaker type. When I say windbreaker, I meant a cotton one, not a polyester.
Yeah, you don't mean like the old Charlotte Hornets windbreaker that everybody had in the 90s for some reason.
No, just more of a full zip, little light full zip jacket, workout jacket type thing with the T-shirt underneath it, with the light pants, the ones that are lighter, not the windbreaker, but the light cotton, and I would spend, and then the Nike socks, and I would spend $100 on that, and then I would go to the outlet and buy a $150 pair of shoes for about $90 to $100, for the tennis shoes. But yeah, it'd be full windbreaker deal, and just a nice little Nike suit. Yep. That would be my go-to, and I would buy it in black, and I would already have my gold chain that doesn't count, and so yep, that would be it. And I would wear it everywhere I go.
You got to get rid of the gold chain.
No, and
gold chain has to go.
Nope,
it's not in the budget.
No, it's not part of the outfit.
You got robbed.
No, it's not part of my outfit.
You don't have a gold chain anymore.
Oh yeah, I got two.
I wish you did, brother. Honestly, I do.
So yeah, that would be.
So Nike tip to top.
Yeah, same thing that I wore when we went to Dubai, and they thought that I was famous and carried me to the top of the thing. It's the same thing that I was wearing Tuesday when I thought we were going to go play golf. Basically, the same thing that I would that I wear to go play racquetball. I mean.
Hey, quick question before we move on to how I answer this question. Have you ever played golf with Jeff?
Yeah.
I'm wrestling in my mind because I could only see Jeff being one of two things. Either an awful golfer or an excellent golfer. I can't see him in the middle anywhere. I feel like he'd either be somebody that just like is just out there to laugh at himself, or he's out there just an absolute stick, just pin seeking, like catches you off guard. You think you're out there just playing with a random guy, and he's out there just putting it on you.
Yeah.
Like, where is Jeff on the spectrum of golf?
So the issue with playing golf with Jeff is Jeff doesn't play golf.
Okay, there we go.
But Jeff's got good hand-eye coordination.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
And was an athlete and stuff, and so
I think that's where the stick thing comes from.
But he doesn't. He's not a golfer. But the issue with Jeff, and so I don't know how many. We might only play once or twice. One time we played in Hot Springs together, and it was just me and him. The girls came for a little while, and Jeff's probably, he's not as good of a golfer as I am, and I'm terrible. And it's just because we haven't played.
I just didn't expect you to say that.
But Jeff's, he's got good hand-eye coordination. And the issue though is that it's hard for either one of us to learn, because he's left-handed when it comes to golf. So I don't know why, but he plays left-handed. So he has left-handed clubs. And so it's not like we can help each other out.
Is he left-handed in other things?
I don't think so. And,
what if he's not left-handed?
Then it might explain his golf game.
What if he's really good?
Might explain his golf game.
That is crazy.
Maybe he's just hitting from the wrong side. Yeah.
I need to hang out with him. I've never swung a left-handed golf club.
So we were really wanting to go. It's just things didn't work out that way. But we had a good time.
Well, you guys can join me at Black Bear anytime.
We don't have that kind of money. One thing that
if you'll start eating wafers, you can save up.
For lunch on Monday, we went to the Camp, is what it's called. It's right next to Magnolia Grill. And it's a really top-notch lunch place. really like it. It's not very expensive. Very good. But I got this pork belly tacos
That sounds
that for
delicious.
some reason I just thought that you would really enjoy.
Yeah.
And they were really good.
So the Skull family, and we've discussed this before, and maybe you remember subliminally deep in your mind, the Skull family eats tacos nearly exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
So we keep protein tortillas
Right.
in our house. I'm not joking. We have 8 packs of protein tortillas at our house at all times. Every time I go to the store, I count the packs of tortillas and I replace whatever's missing. And when we cook these large proteins, like I'm pretty much the only one, I think. Courtney sometimes. I'm pretty much the only one that will eat it just off a plate. Like if we make a bunch of pork, I'll eat pork off a plate. I don't care. Chicken, I'll cut up chicken and eat it. The kids like it on a tortilla. They just prefer it that way. And so we eat stuff like that a lot. And so I love all forms of tacos.
These are really good.
Pork belly taco sounds top tier.
Yep.
$200 wardrobe, easy for me. Golf attire is the most versatile of all attires because you can get away with it in formal events. You may be seen as too casual some places, but you get away with it. But true golf pants are made of the stretchiest fabric I've ever experienced in my life, but they hold up well. So you could literally play sports in them. So I would get a $80 pair of golf pants, good golf pants, in some sort of neutral color, some kind of gray or something like that, gray or khaki, and then I would get the opposite of that in a golf shirt, and I'd get like a $20 pair of shoes from Walmart because I don't care about shoes at all. And brother, I'd be set to jet, and you can play anything in them. You can work out in them. Mm-hmm. You can play basketball if you want to.
I think that's a great choice.
And then the church thing, you could still preach in it, and nobody would give you any weird looks, anything like that. Other than the initial what's up with this?
Almost every mission trip that I ever went on with Matt Clark, he just ran out of time to pack and would literally go to Dick's and buy 2 packs of underwear, 2 packs of socks, golfing pants, and golf shirts, and go.
Yep.
I mean, that's literally what he would do. And he would bring his own shoes. He'd have a pair of preaching shoes and a pair of tennis shoes or whatever. And that's literally, how he went every time. And every morning he would be taking tags off and wearing golfing clothes. And I don't have that kind of money, but that's what he would do every time.
Yeah.
So it's very appropriate.
No, agreed, and that's more or less what I've done. And the golf shirts I wear are like a bit more loud than a lot of people used to. When I would go on trips and stuff, I would actually take pictures of all my shirts and I would post them and let people vote on which shirts I was going to wear on the trip. And that was always really enjoyed hearing people's negative opinions about my shirts because everybody who knows me is very comfortable giving me a hard time, and so that was always just a fun way to hear people trash on my style a bit.
It's like, have they ever been to Africa?
Right. I'm gonna fit in.
You're gonna be great. Yeah, you're gonna be great.
But no, that's good stuff. Last week we talked about the importance of imposed discipline, and I completely forgot what last week was about. By the way, when I came in here, I tried to remember before I looked at our notes, and I had no idea what it was about. But that was a good episode. I really enjoyed that one. This week, I want to ask a bit different of a question, and I'm asking this based on positionally where you and I find ourselves. You are pastoring a church in the Mangum Archibald community. You are the lead pastor, whatever your specific title is over there, if it's just pastor or whatever. But you are at the top of that ladder in terms of you don't have anybody you answer to directly at the church. I have been pastoring for 15 years. I've never been in the role that you're in now. I've always had people that I had to answer to above me that ultimately have the final say. And you've served in that role that I'm in for a very long time as well. And throughout the history of the Jesus Cartel, we have talked about the great things about the church. And there are a lot of great things about the church. There's a lot of fantastic things about the local church, and we strongly encourage people to be a part and be involved. Now, we don't as much talk about places that the local church comes up short, or places that maybe the local church drops the ball. But having worked for 15 years, I've probably worked at maybe like 6 different churches in the last 15 years before I landed in Winsboro, because my duration at River of Life was for 8 years, I think, and so it took up the majority of that. But I had moved around some in my youth, year here, year 2 here, and just kind of getting to experience different types of churches, different types of leadership. That was actually suggested to me by my original pastor, was that I needed to, get some experience different places so I could really learn what works and what doesn't. And then you've been a Christian for a very long time. You've been in leadership for a very long time. So we've seen undoubtedly some things that go really well, but we've also seen some holes. Now, when I'm talking about these holes, I want to make this clear for anybody who's listening. We are not discussing the particulars necessarily of the churches we were at. When I say the local church, I mean the church community as a whole, because there's only one body. And there are things that the local church as a whole still comes up short in. I'm not talking about the individual ministries of any particular church. That's not what we're talking about, because that's a mixed bag. Like the churches do all sorts of different things, have all sorts of different focus. What I'm genuinely curious about is, as a whole, where does the local church or the local body tend to come up short? Do you have any initial thoughts about that?
Well, yeah, I'd like to start by breaking it down just a little bit, and then we'll get into that, I guess. I think, and like I said, I'm not basing this just off of Franklin and Richland Parish, and for sure not talk about any churches in particular yet. I do have a couple that I would like to talk about in just a minute in some areas. But what you see, a lot is you have a lot of really small churches that are just barely hanging on. And good, bad, ugly, ever how you feel about that, they're just barely hanging on. And so they're having to focus on their people so much that they're not doing a lot of good for a lot of other people, because they're just basically trying to keep the doors open, and so it's like, I don't remember the number, but used to the number was there was 118 Protestant churches in Franklin Parish, and Franklin Parish is going down in people, not up in people and stuff, and so that's a lot of churches. So you got a lot of people that are just having to focus on themselves and nobody else, and can't really do a lot of outreach and those kind of things. They can't afford to, and they're just trying to keep the doors open, and that's difficult. So I do see that as an issue. Now, a lot, y'all are doing work in some of those churches to where you're going in and reviving them and making them better and stuff. Hey, I'm kind of one of those people that's, hey, I love it. Either do that or join up with somebody else, but just not doing anything and barely making it, it's just difficult. It puts a strain on everybody,
Can I put a pin in what you're saying for just 1 second? I just want to make clear, I'm actually of the opinion that those churches should merge. And I want to say, like, a lot of people probably assume, because of what we're doing, that my opinion would be that those churches should just dig their heels in and fight to keep the doors open. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that earlier in church history, when travel was more difficult and things, there was a necessity for the number of churches that we had. Now, I think that we see with the ability to travel, people will travel a long way. There's a saying, it's a church alive is worth the drive. Yeah. I'm sure you've heard that before, but we don't have the same necessity to have a church on every single street corner. I think it would behoove these smaller churches, and I understand the difficulty of letting something like that go. I'm not saying it's easy, but for the health of your people, for the health of the community, for the health of the churches involved, if 3 or 4 of these, 10 to 50 person churches would get together. You make a 200 person church. You got life in the church again. You got plenty of young families in the church again. Now this is a situation where a pastor would be enticed to step up and lead, because it's a hard sell for somebody to walk into a situation and take over something that has ultimately, like, any second away from complete collapse. But that's ultimately what you're asking them to do, and like I said, it's just hard sell. Anyways.
Yeah, so we see a lot of these churches that and some of them were made because of proximity, but some of them were made over church splits,
Sure.
Especially around here, you got churches right next to each other that they just didn't like the way this one was doing. I don't see as much of that division as what we used to. I think that they could come together and there wouldn't be division and all that now. I think that back then there was, I don't know, I don't think communication was difficult and stuff like that. So my grandpa was a Southern Baptist pastor, so I have some insight on how some of those churches got started. And I just think that they could come together and do those things. So that's one thing is, with the really smaller churches, they're just basically having to, hold the doors open and stuff like that. But then I also see, a lot of these churches that are bigger now that have to focus on their people. And they're just, focused on, serving their people and helping their people and all that in such a way that they're not able to reach out as much either. So I see one of the biggest issues in the local church today on both sides is not supporting the community and the people as much as what I think the intentions of the church in the early days was. So the outreach, the loving on people, we call revivals outreach.
Yeah.
But that's not true outreach.
Sure, no, I agree.
Or, that's not true outreach. That's trying to get more people to come to your service. Outreach is when you're going out to reach the other people and everything. And
hit the streets.
Go
knock on some doors.
Right, and do some of that and help some people in the community. There was a check in my mailbox the other day from a couple that lived down the road from me that was made to Thrive Church. And this couple, their son is a pastor of a big church in Monroe, and they are unable to go to church, but they have a local church right here, right there close to their house that they go to, and that they're members of. And then their son is a pastor. But so they would never come to Thrive Church, no matter how much. They have their own church, and their son's a pastor, of a big church. If they were going anywhere else, that's where they would go. But yet, one of our church members went and cleaned up their yard without them asking. And he strictly did it because he loves them. And he knew they couldn't do it, and their yard needed it.
Yep.
So they wrote a donation to Thrive Church and put it in my mailbox because they knew that they knew, number one, he wasn't going to accept any money.
Yeah.
And number two, they knew that he went to Thrive Church. And so things like that, outreach is where I think that we're missing it. The loving on people, the, supporting the community and stuff. Now, with that, so I think that's the number one area that we're missing is the community involvement, the loving on the community, not to get church members, but because it's the right thing to do. The outwardly loving on people outside of your walls. Now, I will say this. In the Mangum area, in Mangum, there are 2 churches there that are knocking that part out of the water. I mean, supporting the community no matter who it is. And I commend them. I mean, you don't see that. I can't name a whole lot more than that's doing that. But there's 2 right there that they're easy to figure out who they are, that are just loving on the community, supporting the community, reaching out regardless of what church they go to or what they do. And they're doing it right. and I commend them. I'm not saying nobody else is, but it's just hard for me to only talk about what's wrong and not talk about what's right.
Sure.
But I do think the number one thing that the church could do better is loving on people in the community, outreach in the community, not for trying to get people to come to your church, but just because it's the right thing to do. But I will say that I do see some churches doing that well. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I believe that the local church has gotten away from accountability. And I hate to just talk about accountability again, just because I talk about it so often. But truly, church discipline, as it is described within Scripture, was not meant to be a shaming of people. Going to your brother who's dealing with things, and then if that doesn't work, taking somebody with you, and if that doesn't work, take a gang with. If that doesn't work, bring it before the church. The intention of those things was never to be harmful to people. It was to have some true accountability in hopes that repentance and a change of direction would happen. And I see, we're really soft as a church. Feelings are very, very highly regarded within the church nowadays. You just don't want to hurt anybody. And it's like, the problem with that is when you let someone go too far down one of these roads, you eventually hit a point where now you don't have permission to hold them accountable because you've let a behavior go on for so long, So let's go hypothetical here. You got a church member who's cheating on his wife, right? And you're like, hey, look, man, you talk with some of the deacons. You're like, hey, I think I'm going to go talk to him, but man, I don't want him to leave. Like he's still coming every Sunday. I'm scared if I go talk to him, he's not going to be here anymore. And really, and this is the justification. Here's how it happens. They say, well, he needs to be here. And if us talking to him would make him leave here, then maybe we shouldn't talk to him. And it's like, that's the opposite of what he needs. It's the opposite of what he needs. And so you wait. You don't say anything because you're like, you know what, maybe him being here, maybe he'll hear something that'll trigger and, he'll come to repent. And no one ever confronts it, but you just say, we're just going to keep loving on him, and it's like, now a year and a half has gone by, still happening. Nothing's changed. And now you're like, all right, well, now I'm going to say something to him. It's like, brother, you're way too late for that. You're way too late. This is now normal behavior for him. The damage that's been caused to the family is not irreversible, but barring a move of God, it's irreversible. There were some things that natural course could have corrected early on, but now it will literally take a supernatural touch from the Lord to create the type of forgiveness and the type of repentance, because now it's a behavior. It's a year and a half that is ingrained. He has renewed his mind that this is who he is because you let him. And so the reality is true love is in accountability. It's not in catering to how people feel and not wanting to have the hard conversations. And so I think as a church, I think that we've really failed people in that way. I think that another thing, and I mean locally, but I guess also on the more broad spectrum, I also think that, a lot of churches have their banners a little too high in that what you described, one of your church members helping somebody that was not a church member, that means that they don't hold the banner too high. It's not, well, they don't go to Thrive, so, it's tough. If they came here, I'd have cleaned their yard. But you see a lot of that in the church nowadays. It's like, well, that's not our people. And it's like, no, that's absolutely your people. It's absolutely your people. It's one body. And so I think that I've been encouraged that I'm seeing more lately. I'm seeing a lot more of the churches start to come together and work together in ministries. I think that the retreat ministry that's been happening in the parishes we've seen a lot of the churches kind of come together and kind of lose the us versus them. I've seen people encourage people into other churches, and that to me is beautiful. And so that's actually a huge step. But there is still a lot of the us versus them mentality, and that's got to go.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we're kind of doing a back and forth. Mine, first one was, just focus on our people for whatever reason, our motivation there, and then and then your point about accountability, and then like you said with the banners, some of the person in my church that did that. There was no way those people would ever come to Thrive Church, but yet very appreciative, So my next one kind of has to do with that a little bit. I think in the local church, so many people are more worried about their programs instead of loving on people. So hey, this is what we got going on. You go talk to somebody, and instead of telling them what God is doing, all they want to do is tell you what they got going on.
Yeah.
So instead of, hey man, what's God been doing in your life? Well, we got this coming up at church, and this is what we're doing.
We had 200 students Wednesday night.
This is what we got going on. And so instead of saying what God's doing in your life, it's more about the program. What this is the program we got going on. This is what we're doing. Well, why are you doing it? Because we've always done it. Yeah, but is it still effective? Well, it may not be, but this is what we're doing. So what I'm asking is, what's God doing in your life? What He's doing through you, and you want to tell me about your program. Now that goes hand in hand with raising your banner too high. Because we're promoting one body, one program, what we got going on. And, some people are going to argue, and they're like, well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're on staff at this church. You're not, I've heard pastors tell me, hey, you're here, we're supposed to promote this. Mm-hmm. Okay, but that doesn't mean we can't promote this too. Mm-hmm. And, we believe in unity, but only if we're involved. No, we believe in what they're doing too, regardless if we're involved or not.
Yeah.
I grew my kids up in a church that didn't have vacation Bible school, but they went to vacation Bible school.
Yeah.
And enjoyed it and loved it.
Sure.
And had a great time. And so, hey, and I probably shared it on Facebook. Hey, this is a great, vacation Bible school to go to and stuff. Why? Because they were doing one and it was great. And we're not doing one. But even if we were doing one, we're not doing it on the same week.
Yeah.
Why can't they go to two?
Yeah.
And
sure.
So that's why I think in the local body sometimes we're promoting programs more than we're worried about reaching people.
That's good. That's good.
I got another one in a minute.
Yeah? Go ahead.
Well, let me remember. Oh, I remember what it is now. So my other one is that I think that in the local church, we focus too much on our differences instead of what we agree on.
Yeah.
There's way too much argument amongst Christians on what they what they disagree on, when we very possibly agree on 99% of life's biggest choices. Mm-hmm. And even if it's 90.
Yeah.
But yet we will have more conversations with a non-believer about football than we will with a believer about life in general, just because there's some biblical area that we disagree on. Mm-hmm. That's difficult.
Yep.
It's probably the worst one. Because we'll find, I see so many people in the local church hanging out with sinners, hanging out with non-Christians, not trying to win them to the Lord, but just because they find it easier to talk to about random things, like the weather and politics and football and all that. The problem is it's going to be kind of like that movie. At some point, then people are going to try to sow into your lives and give you some marriage advice or give you some advice there that you don't need to be listening to those people.
That's right.
But yet we won't hang out with this group of Christians over here because they believe something different about Genesis 26 than you do, or whatever, or they see Acts 2 different than you do, or whatever. So we're not going to take any advice from them, hang out with them even though we, know they love the Lord and stuff, and even though if we ever laid it out there as far as how to raise our kids, how to love the community and all that, we would probably be on the same page on 90-something% of it, but we won't hang out with them as much because all we want to do is talk about the differences that we do have.
Right, and it's very destructive to people in the community watching it, because it's like, well, if this is Christianity, I want no part of that,
right.
And so, that's a good one, man. That's real good. I am. There's a huge thing going on in the church right now, nationwide for sure. With Calvinism and Arminianism. Short versions. Calvinism is like heavy predestination, in that God basically preordained everything to happen the way that it happened. Arminianism is more free will of man, which is, God kind of set everything forth in motion, but then man made decisions after that. And if people would call me an Arminian if they had to choose between the two, I'm really not an Arminian, because I fully believe in both. I'm not in the middle. I'm not in between them. A lot of people say, I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm not in the middle. I believe in the 100% fullness of both God's preordaining, the predestination, but I also 100% believe in the free will of man. Mm-hmm. And mathematically that doesn't work for a lot of people, but God is supernatural, so I don't need it to work for your math. So it's just fine by me. I say that to say I'm watching churches left and right split over it. Yeah. Left and right split. And R.C. Sproul, who is like a very renowned Calvinist, very, very, like, most, especially Calvinist people, would be very well aware of R.C. Sproul. And he's got a lot of really great sayings and things out there. I say sayings like teachings and things out there. But he is a big-time Calvinist, massively so. And then you have the flip side of that. You have a guy like Billy Graham, who would be considered full-bore Arminian. And they asked R.C. Sproul in an interview, they said, would you see Billy Graham in heaven? And he paused for a second and he goes, no. But then he says, it's because Billy Graham would be so close to the throne of God that I don't think I'd be able to see him. Amen. Right? And so R.C. Sproul, though so strong in his convictions towards what he believes about Calvinism versus Arminianism, is not so naive to neglect that this man is a man after God's heart. Amen. And what brings us together, I see him as even greater than myself. You know what I mean? And it's like the humility that was in that, because people perceive him as arrogant because of how strong he stands on this doctrine. But the reality is he's actually got a great deal of humility on the inside of him, if you'll choose to see it. And so it's the same way with people, and that's just one example. But there's plenty of examples between the denominations and all the different sects and things.
Well, just to kind of jump into that real quick, I also saw that and I thought it was amazing, and because the way they put the headline, they put it like
made it sound.
Sproul said that he wouldn't see Billy Graham in heaven, and so I was like intrigued, and I'm usually not the one to push the button, but I did, but I will say this. I have really strong opinions on that subject.
I know you do.
And you know that I do. Mm-hmm. But less than a handful of people know that I have strong feelings on that subject. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm pastoring a church. I am, over the largest faith-based alcohol and drug rehab, in Louisiana. I preach and teach all over the world, do all this kind of stuff. And none of those people know that I have really strong opinions on that. Yep. Now, those strong opinions that I have do not influence how I preach, how I teach, and how I love on people. Yep. Why? Because I could be wrong.
I don't know that a lot of people consider that a possibility. Everybody's so sure that they're right. Yeah.
I could be wrong. So I don't want to influence these people in that area and stuff. There are things that I know to be true. Mm-hmm. And those are the things that I'm going to preach and teach, and they're going to be forefront and all that. And, somebody told me the other day, they said, well, most all of the top Christian speakers that you hear especially on the circuit or whatever today, are Calvinist. Well, I don't know that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not deep diving into all that kind of stuff. I'm not real concerned about, what they think on every little topic and stuff. Hey, I'll listen to some sermons, maybe even a podcast every once in a while, that kind of stuff. Hey, and I enjoy it, and I enjoy learning from other people and stuff. I'm not fixing to deep dive into somebody like that, and I'm not fixing to give those things about myself. One time I had a guy that I asked to come preach at Fresh Start. And love him, great friend of mine, pastor, but he's just never dealt with alcohol and drugs, And I said, hey, will you come preach at Fresh Start? And after about the 5th time me asking him not coming, I said, man, he said, you ever wonder why I won't come? I said, yeah. And he said, because I don't know how to relate to them. What would I preach on?
Yeah.
It's like, preach on Jesus.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay, I can do that, But it's like so many times we want to focus on our differences, and I love the man. It has nothing to do with him.
Yeah, no, I get it.
He would laugh at it too, But it had nothing to do with the man. It's just that so many times we focus so much on our differences that we don't focus on our positives. There was and I'll tell you who it is, Mark Powell, who was the associate pastor of the UPC at the time, so, he was, before he became the pastor, and, and he was the pastor, he just wasn't the senior pastor at the time, and he would come here and preach at Fresh Start, and nobody would have a clue that he was UPC or whatever, nobody would have a clue because he would come in and preach Jesus. Was there differences between how I thought and how he thought? Maybe, but we never even discussed them.
Yeah.
You would think there was. I was raised Southern Baptist and then non-denominational and, believe in righteousness and grace and mercy and all that. And he was, raised UPC and a UPC pastor and stuff. And, but he didn't come in here wearing a 3-piece suit. He came in here wearing a shirt and a pair of pants and preached to the guys. And they always loved it. And there was never any confusion. He came for years, and not one time did somebody come to me and say these two things. Not one time did they come and say, man, he's teaching something different than what the rest of everybody else is teaching. Never said that. And number two, never said, hey, he invited me to come to his church one day. I would like to go there. None of those two things ever happened.
Yeah.
He knew the assignment. He knew what God called him to do. And he came here and he preached Jesus and preached it with some fire and some conviction. And it was great.
That's real good.
And so anyhow, I just think that's a major problem in local church is we focus amongst the body. We focus more on our differences than we do on what we believe. You think about it. You're a Texas Longhorn fan.
That's true.
And I'm an LSU
You
Tiger
probably just
fan.
ripped the Band-Aid off for a lot of our viewers. I don't know that I've said that out loud.
And we're best friends and never have an issue with any of that. But yet, if we believe the scripture different, then we got to focus on that instead of focusing on all the things that we do agree on. It's weird.
Because I think you and I agree on a lot, I would say. Sure. But if we actually took every question in life, there would be more we disagree on.
For sure.
If we took literally every single question, there's probably more. But the precedence of what does unite us is greater than the precedence of what divides us. And that's what the church has forgotten. Is that Jesus being who he is such a greater matter than any of the individual things that we get divided over, that it doesn't matter if there's 100 things we disagree on. The one thing that we agree on should be so much greater that we ought to be able to still work together.
So one side of it is that is 100% true, and that's the number one answer is that what we agree on is so much greater than what we disagree on. Now, the other side of it is that sometimes we take ourselves and our opinions too serious.
Sure.
That's the other side of it. So like, you said, if we went down every single topic, we would probably find more things that we disagree with each other. Mm-hmm. However, if we came back and reviewed those same topics next year, I would disagree with myself. And here's where I'm going with that. When you said, because I didn't know what we were talking about as far as get to know you or anything like that, and you said, you talked in class about what the perfect meal, if you could eat the one meal
You
or
don't
whatever.
remember what you answered.
I ain't got a clue. So while you're saying that, and you said we talked about that, I'm thinking over here, what meal did I come up with? And then I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to be able to do that. Yeah. I'm not going to be able to come up with it. Yeah. So what meal would I choose today?
Yeah.
And I probably chose steak and mashed potatoes and green beans, or salad, Caesar salad or something like that. Then today I would probably say, instead of a steak and baked potato and Caesar salad, today I'd probably say chicken strips, mashed potatoes and gravy and Brussels sprouts or something, and so it's like, or green beans. But I'm like, so many people take their opinions so serious that they want it to divide other people. Man, I'm not fixing that. I divide myself.
Yeah, it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. Hey, there are things that, hey, we're strong on, and I hope we don't change. I understand that. Yeah. But my goodness, there's so many other things.
Yeah. I've never turned down, I've worked with a lot of churches over the years, a lot of them. I've never turned down working with a church unless they were teaching something plus Jesus is required for salvation. So if you're adding additional steps outside of Christ, then there is a dividing line that we got to figure out. Right. Outside of that, if you are teaching Jesus as the singular way to the Father, I don't care what your other doctrines are. Yeah. We can work all that out. And if you say something that gets confusing for somebody, I can help them work through it. I ain't worried about that, because them seeing us united is more it would be worth the conversation I have to have later, just for them to be able to see us come together, because that's what a great lesson for them. Yeah. To see, like, hey, you're telling me you didn't agree with them 100% and we still met together for work. Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you.
You and I have had some very deep conversations on what we believe biblically. Mm-hmm. And I think that over the 12 years or whatever that we've been together, that I've shifted some of my beliefs towards how you believe in certain areas, and you've shifted some of your beliefs the way I believe in some certain areas, because we just see it a little more clear and stuff like that. But we've never had those conversations outside of private, small conversations. Mm-hmm. Why? Because it didn't matter. Yeah. At the end of the day, those things didn't matter. If they would matter, we'd be preaching and teaching and talking about it.
Well, here's one thing that's really funny. We won't get into the details of it, but there is one matter in Scripture that you and I stand on the polar opposites on with Abraham. We could not be more opposite on a matter. And
I love it.
But it's not a problem.
No.
It's not a problem. And you genuinely feel the way, and I genuinely feel the way I feel. And they are on opposite sides.
And since we've talked about that, I've preached on Abraham 3 times. Mm-hmm. And my opinion on the part that you're talking about has never come up in my preaching. Mm-hmm. Because it doesn't matter.
Sure.
What I mean? Well, there's a lot that does matter with Abraham. And I've preached those things in the 3 times, 3 different things of Abraham since me and you had that conversation a couple years ago or whatever. Mm-hmm. And none of that's ever come up. Not my side, not your side, not any side. Mm-hmm. I've preached the parts that I know to be true. Mm-hmm. Because I could very strongly be wrong here. Mm-hmm. And even if I am, it doesn't matter. Yeah. I can keep thinking the way I think about that area of Abraham and still go to heaven and be wrong.
Right.
And everything still be okay.
Sure.
Where we're going to run into trouble is if I try to convince everybody that God's entrusted me with that they have to think this way. Mm-hmm. Or yet something's wrong.
And on the flip side of that, if I were sitting in a service where you were preaching that and you did share what your thoughts or opinions were, I wouldn't feel compelled to get up
You would
and
never
walk
say
out
anything.
of the service.
Right.
I wouldn't feel compelled to talk to the people in the congregation about it because two things. Again, one, I could be wrong.
Right.
You know, I don't think I am,
Right.
but it doesn't mean I'm not. It's just there is no "thus saith the Lord" on that one particular thing. It is left to discernment, and we just discern it a little differently, and that doesn't mean that I'm right. It's just how I discern it.
And the other side of it is, I'm not going to die on that hill.
Yeah, be a silly hill to die on, you know. And so it's like at the end of the day, one of two things: either A, I'm wrong and I need time to grow into proper understanding, or you may be wrong and you need time to grow into proper understanding. And in either case, should I stand against you in this moment, it robs whichever one of us needed that. It robs us of it.
Right.
And so it's I'm either going to take it from myself because I'm the one that's wrong, but now here I am standing on a soapbox talking about how dumb you are, and I've robbed myself of the opportunity to grow. Or maybe you would have got there one day. But now, because of the way that I've handled this situation, well, you're not even going to entertain that I might be right because of the immaturity shown in how that matter was handled. And so it's like,
well, and on this particular topic, you know, they were talking about, it would be great if we could stand on that stage and debate it.
oh, it'd be fun too.
It would be a blast, and you and I could do that and not have any issue.
Yeah.
The problem is it would be confusion for other people.
Yeah.
And there's so many other things that we know to be true.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're not going to decide who's right.
Yeah, no.
You know what I'm saying? But at the end of because I could argue your side and you could
Sure,
argue my side.
sure.
But at the same time, it could be confusion to other people. And then there's a lot of things that we could be talking to them about that we're not.
Yeah.
You know, that we know to be true.
So we're pretty much done for the episode. I do want to tell the people on this particular matter.
Here we go.
No, but I just want to say, I am the one with the nuanced opinion here.
Yeah.
Clay is.
I would have the crowd.
Clay is very much
Right.
the one. I would have to win everyone over there.
Andrew would have to do a hard job. I mean, a good job of winning everybody over, and I could just basically rest my case.
I don't know that he would have to speak to win.
Just read the scripture.
Wait, you got anything else?
No, man. Hey, look, I enjoy talking about this. I do want you to know, Andrew did tell me right beforehand, hey, we're going to be talking on things that we see, that are lacking in the local church and stuff. For me, I would rather do, good and bad, looking tit and tat type stuff. But we do talk about a lot of the good, so it was good for us to be able to talk about some of those holes because we are part of the problems, in some of those areas and stuff too. So we do believe in everything that we said, but we also believe that there's a lot of really good stuff.
Way
going on,
more
too.
good.
Yeah.
Way more good than the bad. And for the holes that we mentioned, we want you guys to help us. We want you to step up into some of these roles. We want you to give us your ideas and thoughts and opinions so we can form a good plan and move forward.
Love y'all.